What is the funniest thing a doctor ever said to you?
Story 1. My wife and I had our child late in life and knew we were going to be one and done, so a vasectomy was going to happen. Where I live, you need a doctor's referral to get one. Coincidentally, my appointment to get said referral was the same week that I started my paternal leave. At my appointment, Doc walks into the room and says, "You've been on pat leave for 2 days and you already want a vasectomy?" Story 2. Me with red curly hair at the OBGYN. "Your hair is so pretty, is it natural? The color or the curl?" "I'll find out about the color in a minute." We both died laughing. She didn't mean to say it, but OMG, it was hilarious. So sad she retired. Story 3. I went to the ER in seriously bad abdominal pain. I couldn't explain it since everything was seemingly *** running fine. Scant, but fine. As it turned out, I was still massively backed up, almost to the point of impaction. The doctor, who was a good, goofy guy, said, "Ma'am, sorry to tell you, but your diagnosis is that you're full of shit." I cracked up and said, "How long have you been waiting to use that one on a patient who won't complain?" "Forever." Story 4. Had a nasty throat and tonsil infection and went to the doctor, who looked in my throat and went, "Ew, that looks gross." I said, "Is that your professional opinion?" And he says, "Yep, that's the grossest thing I've seen in weeks." Ew! He was a super nice doctor and I knew he was just joking. He then gave me some nice meds and sent me on my way. And it really did look very gross. Story 5. I was a brand new med-surg nurse and was calling a doc for orders for the first time in my life. I had my S-bar prepped and a small script memorized. I called the doc and got my orders. There was a big push at this time for docs to enter their own orders. I asked him, "You'll put those in?" He shouted, "You have a better chance of seeing your Lord and Savior naked riding a unicycle on the 4th floor." I was speechless and instinctively said, "What?" He said, "That means no," and hung up. My preceptor was laughing so hard and made me share what he said with the whole nurses' station. He later apologized and didn't know I was new. He was a funny guy after that. Story 6. I smashed my left pinky toe into a door frame, hurt like a mother. Went and got it x-rayed and yep, fractured. A month later, I'm at a routine podiatrist visit and my toe is swollen, purple, and the toenail is black. I'm explaining to the doc that I fractured it. He looks closely at my mangled little piggy and says seriously, "Yeah, you're going to lose that toe." What? In about 3 seconds, I went through shock of losing a toe, acceptance of losing a toe, and determination to continue living without a toe when the doctor says, "Sorry, I mean toenail. You're going to lose that toenail." Gah! Story 7. Not to me, but my mom. I was with my mom when she went to get blood drawn once. She has a lot of anxiety over it because she has tiny baby veins and it's always a nightmare. Phlebotomist comes in and says, "Holy Jesus, Mary and the angels guide my hand." As she's trying to stick the needle in, I totally lost it because damn, if you gotta say a prayer beforehand, then this isn't going to be good. It wasn't good. She blew a vein and had to go get someone else to do the blood draw. My mom had the nastiest bruise I've ever seen afterwards. My family now uses that phrase before doing something stupid where we know the outcome is going to be bad LOL. Story 8. Doctor pulled up my lab tests on the monitor. This was back when they were still formatted for DOS patient data systems and just basically white text on a black screen. He was paging down and a section came up on the screen which was bright red text and had a box made of asterisks around it. He said, "Wow!" Me, startled. "Is that bad?" Doctor, "I've never seen a result like this before." Me, Doctor, "I didn't even think this system could use color or make boxes." Me, Oh, okay, so it's nothing bad then?" Doctor, "Oh no, it's bad, I mean not horrible, but something we definitely need to address. It's just..." Makes explosion hand gesture and giggles. "Pow, red stars! In your face! Never seen that before." He was actually a remarkably competent doctor, but very, very new and excitable. Story 9. I had a cystoscopy a couple years back. I go in for the procedure. I'm in the gown on the table, with my feet up in these, stirrups. The nurse comes in, gives me a breakdown of what's going to happen. She leaves. A different nurse comes in, lifts the gown, washes the area, puts the gown back down, and then she leaves. I'm now damp, cold, naked from the waist down, laying on my back with my feet in the air, feeling just about as totally exposed and vulnerable as humanly possible. The doctor, whom I'd never met before that moment, comes in. No preamble, no small talk. Says, "Let's see what we've got." Sits down at the foot of the table, lifts the gown, and goes, "Yep, that's a penis. I'm gonna put a camera in it now. Try to relax." To this day, I honestly can't say whether it was the best bedside manner ever or the worst. In that context, it was maybe the funniest thing anyone's ever said to me, and I will never forget it if I live to 1,000,000,000 years old. Story 10. I was VP at a bank and managed a spiral fracture in my foot while playing in a ball pit. The orthopedic surgeon asked where I'd managed that injury. I told him I'd done it at the City Museum. For those unfamiliar, the City Museum in St. Louis, MO is a 12-story shoe factory that's been converted into the biggest, baddest backyard fort on Earth. Slides, tunnels, catwalks, gargoyles, ramps, and an immense ball pit filled with 10-inch playground balls. The doctor started laughing and said, "Oh, I love the City Museum. It's put all 4 of my kids through college." Story 11. I was going to a fertility doctor because I had trouble getting my wife pregnant. I had a very, very low sperm count. The doctor was saying to my wife that she has an issue too. Then he says, "Doesn't help that your husband's guys all know each other by their first names." We fostered and adopted later a girl, but I still chuckle at it years later. Story 12. My midwife was wrist deep inside me doing a difficult cervical check when she suddenly goes, "Hey, your socks match." At the time, I had too many patterned socks to keep track of, so I usually had mismatched socks at my appointments. So when I had a matching pair for once, she noticed during the most awkward moment ever. Story 13. Doctor, well, the good news is you don't have cancer. Me? Damn it, that sucks. Doctor, what? Me. If I had cancer, my house would be paid off. It's in my mortgage insurance. Doctor. Oh, well, bad news. You still gotta pay your mortgage. Story 14. My doctor is an older woman who looks and sounds like Elizabeth Warren to help you picture her. I have trouble sleeping, and she advised me that, among other things, a cool bedroom is conducive to better sleep. I said, "At night I turn the heat down to 69. Nice, she said. Did great value Elizabeth Warren know what she was referencing? Story 15. I was about to get a pap smear. I had my legs up in the stirrups, all spread out and trying to be a grown-up and not die of embarrassment. Nurse is fussing with my paper towel cover. Doc rolls up into position, pulls the light over for a closer look-see, and he says, "Oh no," quite emphatically. My head flew up off of that stupid couch and my fat hoo-ha tried to clap shut. What? Do I have cancer? They both looked properly chagrined as they patted me back into position. Their stupid lamp wouldn't hold its place and kept flopping down. Humph. Story 16. So I have a memorial tattoo over my heart. It's a reproduction of a late partner's birthmark. Apparently the artist did a very good job, or a bad one. My gynecologist, while doing the chest exam, I've probably mentioned this before, but you should have that checked out just to be safe. Me. It's a tattoo. Story 17. Not really funny then, but kinda comical now that I'm an adult. When I were a teen, I had to go to the doctor for a checkup due to stomach problems. When the doctor checked my stomach, he said, "Oh wow, so young. How many children do you have?" He was referring to my stretch marks I got due to losing weight when I got into sports. Did not wear bikini for some years, lol. Story 18. Back in high school, I had some really bad fatigue and joint pain after a viral illness, so I went to my GP a couple times, almost back to back. Blood work wasn't really showing infections like Lyme disease or mononucleosis, and my cell counts were about as normal as you could get. So, thankfully, nothing crazy like leukemia. My mom was talking with the doctor and she goes, "Well, it can't be something like Marfan syndrome since all the genetic tests he had when he was younger would have caught that, right?" My GP sort of cocks his head, pulls out a tape measure, and has me extend my arms. He does a quick measurement and goes, "His arm span is 69 inches and his height is 5'9", so 69 inches. Guess we can probably rule that out." Can't really say that around a teenage guy and not have that be funny, lol. Story 19. More the funniest moment I have had with a doctor. Backstory. I don't get embarrassed easy or at all. Also, my doctor was on the verge of retiring. My husband and I were doing infertility and going through the process of artificial insemination. He had to, bring his specimen with us so we could attempt to get pregnant. Well, his body did like preforming on a clock, and he couldn't get off. And trust me, you are on a tight clock. So I was in the office, and I knew we couldn't have sex to get him off. But I proceeded to ask this gentle, more caring, and passionate old man if I could help my husband. I turned beet red, basically asking if I could give my husband a blowjob to help move things along. And by this point, Doc knew me pretty well and just pat me on the shoulder, saying of course I could help, and laughing with me as I was truly embarrassed, maybe for the second time in my life. Also, doing infertility. In the past 9 days, I have had 7 people inside me, 5 of which were men, none of which were my husband. He got a laugh out of that line, too. Love that doctor. Best damn doctor I've ever had and made me 2 amazing boys. Story 20. He told me I had high cholesterol and advised me to lay off the junk and deep-fried food. I told him I wasn't eating any of that, and he told me to lay off anyway. I wasn't lying about my diet. Not that he asked. I was 2 months into prepping for a bodybuilding show. Story 21. I got blood drawn one time at the doctor's, and they told me to hang out for a little while to chat about the results. After 45 minutes of sitting and waiting for someone to come back, I finally go out and ask what is taking so long. Well, no one wanted to say anything to me, and finally they got the doctor, who said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're a diabetic." I then proceed to ask him if that's why I've been taking insulin for the last 18 years at the time, and all the nurses started laughing at him. Apparently it was a rough first week on him, and he wasn't great at this. Although annoying, it was pretty funny at the same time. Story 22. I saw a med student intern for the first time because he was working with my doctor. I was there for omeprazole, which I need every few months or so. Him. Okay, so you're having acid reflux. Me. Yes, it's burning a lot at night. Him. You've had this before? Me. Yeah, I've had this since I was 14. Him. Confused. Do you know what causes it? Me. Purging. His face. Apparently my doctor hadn't told him about my ED, and he hadn't even considered. Story 23. I had a weird growth on my penis a few years ago. It turned out to be MRSA related, but I didn't know that at the time. I went to urgent care, and I was horrified when the doctor who came to see me was a gorgeous young woman, probably just out of med school. She's examining me, and her nurse is in the room watching because I guess that's a legal requirement in situations like these. The doctor can't diagnose what's wrong with me, so she calls for backup. And it's this older lady doctor, so now the two of them are literally passing my dick back and forth while this nurse is watching. And I'm feeling completely humiliated. And all of a sudden I hear the pretty doctor tell the older doctor, "I don't think there would be any benefit to us giving him oral." I must have turned bright red. I knew she meant pills, but I blurted out, "You had to say it like that?" The older doctor kind of scowled, but the other two quickly turned their heads to try to hide the fact that they both burst out laughing. Story 24. So, in a completely not funny situation, my son had a seizure when he was almost 1. Ambulance came, rushed us off to the ER, and long story short, the doctor that saw him gave us a couple of syringes full of benzos to give him if it happened again. And when giving us instructions on how to use the drugs, he repeatedly told us to put it in his bottom. Despite the seriousness of the situation, my wife and I were desperately trying not to lose our shit and burst out laughing. It was just the way he said and emphasized bottom that did us in. That said, he never had another seizure. And I ended up boofing that shit like 2 years later because I hate to let things go to waste. Story 25. I had a rash on my forehead just under my receded hairline. He asked me if I'd been using anything on it, and I told him that I got some hydrocortisone cream for it, but it didn't work. He said that I shouldn't use hydrocortisone cream on my face. I said that it isn't my face, it's my head. He said, "No, it used to be your head, now it's your face." He was totally deadpan, and for a minute all of the air went out of the room until I realized what he'd said and started laughing. Story 26. I'm actually a PCP. I had a patient with a lesion that needed to be biopsied. Of note, she was a bit of a plump woman. This has been a few years, so I forget the exact details, but I believe I was cleaning the area before or something, and realized I needed something a little different. We had these swabs we would use for GYN exams that was basically like a really big Q-tip. The cotton swab was much thicker and was perfect for what I was needing. So I asked my assistant to go get me one of these thick GYN swabs, except I couldn't think of all those words. So instead, in front of my patient, I said the first thing that came to mind. "Will you go get me one of the fat woman swabs?" Then I heard what I said and was mortified. I apologized and explained what I meant. Luckily, she thought it was hilarious. Story 27. Due to a certain health issue, I drink a lot of water, so I naturally brought a water bottle to this appointment. End of the appointment. And he can't figure out what's wrong but is apologetic about that and sends me for more testing as well as a referral. So I'm getting up to leave, forget my water bottle, and he simply says, "Young lady, you forgot your vodka." I've seen way too many doctors and heard many wild things, but the way he listened and was respectful, followed by this super casual offhand joke, destroyed me. Story 28, not said but shown. I'm female, and my male friend was in the hospital for the third time with ongoing pancreatitis issues. For 3 months, every single doctor had drawn the pancreas as a round or oval-shaped object when explaining the disease or procedures to us. One day, a new doctor walked in and decided to show us medical textbook drawings as she explained the next procedure to us. That was when we learned the pancreas is actually shaped like a penis and testicles. I honestly can't tell you what the doctor said because I was too busy trying not to look at my friend or laugh. The worst part was that we had his very conservative, very Baptist sister on speakerphone so she could hear the treatment plan. When the doctor left, my friend and I started laughing so hard we were crying and wheezing. His sister kept asking what was so funny, and all we could say was, "It's a penis!" It was unintentional on the doctor's part, but it was a welcome bright spot in a crappy situation. Story 29. Walked over to me and checked my pulse, after I described what I was there to discuss, namely going off meds cold turkey and unsupervised. After the fact, looked me in the eye and proclaimed, "You're alive. My goodness, you had me scared I was seeing ghosts there. Do not ever do that again." Same doctor, different issue. Me. I'm not sure if this is bad enough to see a doctor about. Him. Well, determining that is different for everyone, but would you like some advice on how to make that call in your specific situation? Me. Sure. Him. The minute you consider maybe calling me, that is a clear sign you should have been here last week at the latest. I wish I could give you something for your chronic stubbornness, but unfortunately that doesn't exist, nor would you take it.